Sejak kebelakangan ini, banyak kes pencemaran sumber air akibat pembuangan sisa toksik dan minyak yang dibuang secara haram. Pihak yang tidak bertanggungjawab ini enggan melupuskan sisa buangan toksik di pusat pelupusan yang sepatutnya.
Solid waste generally known as waste that come from human and animal activities. It can be considered and the waste is come normally in solid form. Next, the solid waste can be considered as useless or unwanted materials that come from human and animal activities. So the sources of solid waste is municipal waste, come from urban waste. Second is industrial waste, which is come from factory or industry. And the third sources is hazardous waste. Water pollution is when the water is being harmed or have presence of harmful chemical and a concentration above natural in the composition of the water itself. So the unwanted materials that have in the water can harm the users, which is human and animal. And the sources for this waste is come from industrial, agriculture, or maybe direct disposing or littering of toxic towards the water itself. So the sources may change the condition of the water and the composition that may harmful and can be used for other users such as human and animal. The general term for solid waste and the water pollution. So did you know that water pollution and solid waste are relatable issues that nowadays being happen in our country or in the world? So the number of solid waste increase per day, and the increase of solid waste will increase also the water pollution that we have in our country or in our world.
Toxic waste pollute the Kinkin River in Johor in 2019. Toxic fumes were discharged as a result of the illegal dumping affecting nearby residents. Water pollution began in the Kinkin River as a result of poor solid waste management. Palm oil processing factory pollute the Nibong Topal River. Pollutants were released from the surrounding palm and factories, causing the pollution. Palm oil spill covered the water into a black layer of oil and plastic waste that float around. On the 14 March 2019, waste dumping suspected to include chemical was discovered in ground. It was believed that a chemical material was disposed of in the rain, which then began to flow into the Klang River. Sungai Narong pollution in Batimau is suspected to be affecting the ecosystem and the health of the people. On 3 November, prior monitoring revealed that the river near the Penang International Airport is clogged with solid garbage. The worsening sea pollution near Teluk Bahang on the island northern edge has an impact on people's livelihood. The pollution of the coast of Teluk Bahang appears to be getting worse.
The impacts of the solid waste and water pollution for the solid waste that is not properly managed can cause a serious hazard and leads to the spread of the infectious disease. Unattended waste lying around attract flies, rats, and other creatures that in turn to spread the disease. This leads to the unhygienic condition and thereby to a rise in health problems. The plague outbreak in Surat is a good example of a city suffering due to the careless attitude of the local body in maintaining the cleanliness in the city. The waste treatment and disposal sites can also create the health hazard for the neighborhood. The improperly and managed and designed landfills attract all types of insects and rodents that spreads disease. The environmental impacts of the improper waste solid management are scavengers and stray animals invading the roadside garbage and littering the waste over the large area, causing the static damage to the atmosphere. And the waste product, when burned like plastic and rubber, pollute the atmosphere with the noxious fumes. Next is the impact of the water pollution. The impacts of the water pollution is biodiversity loss. When water pollution causes the proliferation of algae in a lake or other marine environment, the introduction of recently introduced nutrients stimulates the growth of plants and algae, which in turn to reduce the oxygen levels in the water. This lack of oxygen, known as eutrophication, suffocates plants and animals and can create the dead zones, where water is essentially deprived of life. In certain cases, this flowering of harmful algae can also produce the neurotoxin that affect the wildlife. The next impacts of the water pollution is the food chain disruption in marine and aquatic life. If the aquatic life tend to accommodate as per the polluted water, it is highly possible that the marine species may have toxin and pollutant in their body. When humans tend to feed on fishes, shellfishes or other aquatic species, they end up consuming the toxin and pollutant too. Pollution disrupts the food chains by moving the toxin from one level in the chain to the higher level. In some cases, pollution can wipe out an entire part of the food chain, such the fact that other organisms by either causing excessive growth in case the predator dies or death, or if it wipes out the prey.
Other infrequent issues are urban runoff pollution. In nature, trees, plants, and earth help absorb the rain solid and break down the pollutants, naturally refilling our groundwater and keeping our waterways healthy. But roads, parking lots, roofs, and buildings don't absorb water. The toxin picked up by rainwater and melting snow that runs off to many impermeable surfaces common in metropolitan environments are referred to as runoff pollution. It represents a risk to our water supply's quantity and quality. Urban stormwater picks up pollution like oil on the road, pesticides, and garbage that wind up in our waters and harm our aquatic life. Green infrastructure is one of the solution techniques that can be used to address stormwater runoff and sewer overflow problems. Rain gardens, pervious pavements, rain barrels, and green roof are examples of green infrastructure. Besides that, reduce the pollution that goes into stormwater by disposing of household chemicals at a recycling depot and use less fertilizer and avoid pesticides. Remember, only rain should go down the drain. There are approximately 5.2 trillion pieces of plastic in the world's oceans, 92% of which are microplastics. Microbeads that can often be found in personal hygiene products, such as facial and body scrubs, soap and toothpaste, are also considered to be microplastics. 1,147 personal cleansing products around the world contain microbeads to act as physical respondents, and one tube of facial scrub can contain more than 330,000 plastic microbeads. While these microbeads might be good at removing some unwanted scaly skin, they are also great at soaking up all of the toxins in the water they are floating in. A single plastic microbeads can be 1 million times more toxic than water around it. They are then washed down into our waterways where they are inevitably consumed by animals in the food chain and can ultimately end up back on our plates. The study found that 1/4 of all fish sold in California had microplastics in their guts. Unfortunately, Malaysia has not officially implemented legislation banning the sale of products containing microbeads like the United States, Canada, and the UK. But many companies and retailers have already enacted self-imposed bans. Since microbead size are less than 5 mm, which are extremely small, hardly visible to the naked eye, most wastewater treatment plants are not designed to filter them out. That is how microbeads contribute to the plastic sea swirling around in our oceans. So, it is vital for us, conscious consumers, to know that the products we buy are free of microbeads. Otherwise, we might still be polluting the seas without realizing it. Simple thing like don't use body wash or cosmetic products that contain microbeads could help. Always check the ingredient before you buy any products and try to avoid all these ingredients. If you already own a product that contains plastic microbeads, just throw it down the drain. Squeeze the contents into the trash, then recycle the plastic packaging. Lastly, need a skin scrub? Try make your own from natural ingredients like brown sugar and oatmeal. Despite taking up only 2% of the trash in landfills, e-waste account for nearly 70% of the toxic heavy metals in the landfills. Nowadays, millions of people are using a lot of electronic devices. Therefore, it is natural that a lot of e-waste arises. The World Health Organization (WHO) is warning that the amount of e-waste around the world is growing significantly. Based on research, estimation shows Malaysia generates 24.5 million units of e-waste in 2025. Electronic waste, referred to as e-waste, includes all discarded electric or electronic devices. Components in e-waste contain toxic and hazardous materials such as lead, cadmium, and chromium, will permeate into the earth and subsequently water sources, threatening the aquatic and human life if it is not disposed properly. Other than that, acid and other harmful chemicals that are used to extract precious metals like gold from less value materials like plastic in electronic devices, when improperly treated, can also cause surface water to be contaminated. So, what can we do to help combat e-waste? In order to ensure the implementation of sustainable e-waste management, consumer or waste generator is advised to send their household e-waste at any registered collection centers or recovery facilities licensed by the Department of Environment. We can either send it by ourselves or contact any registered collection centers who offers a pickup service from home. Other than that, we can try to maintain electronic properly so they last longer. One of the ways is by storing data online to clear storage space so that your electronics will last longer. Lastly, you can buy Energy Star rated electronics, and before buying a new electronic device, consider repurposing an old one. There is good reason to follow these few simple steps. By recycling 1 million cell phones, more than 35,000 pounds of copper, 33 pounds of palladium, 772 pounds of silver, and 75 pounds of gold can be recovered. The materials is not only worth money, but recovery will also help to reduce the amount of mining necessary, which is also included in one of the activities that can cause contamination of soil, groundwater, and surface water.
Everything.
Start with you.
Let's
Reuse the past.
keep the world
Clean.
Save the future.